working today. So today I'm going to try to type and hold the phone and talk at the same time, and so we'll see how well I do with that. Hopefully I won't drop you somewhere along the way. That means drop the phone on the table, and you'll hear it if I do. Either way around it, I'm glad today's Tuesday instead of Monday. I don't know about the rest of you, but my 2-hour and 45-minute commute yesterday was not that much fun, and I'm glad to see the ice is all gone today. Would love to see a little bit more of the sun, but we can't complain after the weekend that we had. So let's get started. As usual, you are in listen-only mode, but please feel free to type any questions out, and I'll answer them as we go. And if you have anything that you want to talk about afterwards, you definitely give us a call, and we can take care of whatever questions that you have. But this is a big question that happens a lot, and we get this call quite often. You know, how do we handle this? How do we deal with customer credits? Now, you know, there are times that we can just apply the credit over to an open invoice, but there are also times that a customer will call and say, you know, I want my money back. And, you know, that's kind of a hard thing for some of us to figure out how exactly do we get their money back, because, you know, we have the credit in AR and we have to pay them out of accounts payable. So how do we do that? But, you know, although it sounds difficult, it really is not that difficult. It's actually pretty easy to do. So we're going to talk about how to handle credits today, and that's going to be a big one. And well, let's go through it, and let me show you exactly what I'm talking about here. So let's say, for instance, we pull up our first customer. He's got a memo on him, and we're going to go to our Invoices tab. And you'll notice that my American Business Futures customer here, he's got a credit memo sitting on his account. Now, the credit memo could have come from many different things. Maybe we overcharged him. Maybe you know, he returned something. Maybe something was shipped to him and it was damaged, so we gave him a credit. But now the customer has called back up and said, you know what, I would like my $500 back. So you say, okay, how do I get that $500 off? And how in turn then do I pay this customer out of my accounts payable for this $500? Well, it's actually a pretty simple method. And one of the first things that you have to do, or what I recommend that you do, is you create in your general ledger a credit clearing account. Now, you can call this account whatever you want, because in essence, I want the balance of this account to be 0 at all times. So we're basically going to put a transaction against this account, and then we're going to put another transaction against the account. So in the end, this account should be always 0. So it will be an account that you reconcile, meaning it should take you all of a split second to look at it, and it should be 0. If it's not 0, somebody didn't follow all the steps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an account called 430. Now, you'll notice that my account entry screen came up because this account does not exist. Now, keep in mind, I'm in General Ledger Main Account Maintenance. We've talked in prior Tech Tuesdays that there's a separate table out there now, actually 2 other tables, one called Main Account Maintenance and the other one called, it's our Segment Maintenance. This account is not in the Main Account Maintenance, so rather than going to General Ledger Setup and then Main Account Maintenance, I'm going to add it to this table and my Account Maintenance table at the same time. So once this window pops up, you have to click Tab on your keyboard here, and you'll notice that I have a little white button. And this button is my Add button. So I'm going to add this to my Main Account Maintenance table. So I'm going to call this my Refund Clearing Account. Okay? Now, I happen to put it in Revenue. You could put it anywhere you want. You can put it, I don't care, Cost of Sales, Expenses, Other, doesn't matter. Once again, should be 0, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and I'm going to click OK again, and you'll notice now my account maintenance allows me to have this account. So I'm going to accept it, so I add that account. Now keep in mind, to add a GL account, remember you have to have the general ledger rights to be able to do that. If you don't have the rights, you would not have seen that little button that just appeared. You also have to have it set up to be able to add those accounts on the fly. So just keep that in mind. Now, all right, let's go back. how do I get rid of that $500? I need to get that $500 off of my customer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Main, and I'm going to go to Cash Receipts Entry. And I'll start myself a new batch here, and I'm going to go ahead and accept it, and a new deposit. Now, I'm not going to put a cash deposit amount because I'm not receiving any money, okay? Not receiving any money. So I'm going to accept this, and then I'm going to choose my customer that I want to write off that that credit that I have out there. For check number, put in something that makes sense to you. Now, I like to do something like, refund, CM, so I know that I'm refunding the credit memo. You could put the credit memo number as the check number, but something that makes sense to you. So when you go back and look at this customer later, you're going to go, oh, I know what that was, okay? Because keep in mind, we're going to look at this months later, trying to figure out what happened on this account. So amount received is still 0. I'm not receiving any money. I'm going to move this off this customer and into that GL account number in my clearing account. So I'm going to click on my Lines tab, and now I'm going to select that invoice, or I can key it in. Now, I personally prefer not to use this button. This is your Invoice Lookup, and it shows every invoice you ever had, even if it's got a 0 balance. I personally prefer to use the Select Invoices button, and if it was me, and if Sage asked me, which they're not going to, but if they did, I would switch those two buttons, because I would rather see, at this point, just the invoices that I have open. So here I'm going to select this $500 credit memo that the customer wants to refund on, and I'm going to click OK. Now, here we have it in the amount posted field, the $500, right? And our balance will show 0. But now notice that my posting balance is a positive 500. Well, as we all know, we cannot post a cash receipt that is out of balance. I need to get that $500 into that clearing account. So what do? I come down here to my line 2, and you notice I have a line type down here in my second grid, and it defaults to invoice. I want to click my down arrow, and I'm going to choose GL account, and I'm going to come down into this GL account field, and I'm going to enter that general ledger account that I created, my refund clearing account. It takes that positive 500 and puts it in the amount posted field, and now my posting balance is 0. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and accept that, and I'm going to print my cash receipt. Now keep in mind, I can click my little printer icon here, or I can do a cash receipts journal. Either one does the same thing. This just invokes that menu item. I'm going to choose my batch. My total is 0, which it should be. And yes, you can do this on a batch where you've got, other real cash receipts. But I personally prefer to do it in its own separate batch so we can isolate it when we look at this information when I'm looking at a journal. So I've got paperless turned on. So here comes my cash receipts journal. And you can see we've got the credit memo, and we've got our little GL account to $500 there for that account. Now, I'm going to go ahead and update my cash receipt, and I'm going to do my daily transaction register. Once again, I'll print that. And then here comes my daily transaction register. It's relieving my accounts receivable account and then crediting my refund clearing. Alrighty, so let's post that. Now, if I'm going to go back and I look at that customer now, and I go and I look at that particular invoice, this one right here, you'll notice down here my payment for my check number shows my refund credit memo. So I know now my balance is 0 on this invoice. I've taken care of this. But if I go back and I look at that GL account number, let's go up here because I have it pulled up to the top. And I look at my history. Oop, got to do the right year here. Remember, I will test data. Normally I have you guys close your periods. But here's my $500 sitting in this account. Okay? So once again, remember I told you it has to be 0. So we know that we've only done 1/2 of the entry to refund this customer money. Now I have to go to Accounts Payable, and I'm going to go to Main. Now, you could put in an invoice if you wanted to. You could create a vendor for this customer and make it a temporary vendor. Or you could use the not on file vendor. Now some of you are going, what? Not on file vendor? What are you talking about? Well, let's show you, okay? I'm going to go into manual check entry. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the quick print button with this is the little printer icon here, because I'm going to print this check as I enter it. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to write a check for $500. Now, at this point, I want to choose my non-on-file vendor. Now, since I have divisions set up in my customers and vendors both, I have to put a 01. Most of you would just put in NOF, okay? So it comes up with not on file vendor. A lot of you don't even know that that is there. I can, at this point, click on my hyperlink here, and I can put in ABF, and I'm just going to kind of put this, what was it? No, I'm sorry. It is American Business Futures. And I can put their address in here. You know, this is the address that came from my customer, and this is where I want it to go. Once again, a little disadvantage here. Now I know how you guys feel since I wear a headset, that I'm typing this in, and you guys are normally having to type and talk to me at the same time. It's a little harder when you don't have both hands free. Okay, so, and then this happens, we do tax on our AP, so I'm going to make this a non-tax vendor, and I'm going to go ahead and click accept. Now the reason why I'm doing this is because I want this address to appear on the check. Okay, so now pulled up that name for my NOF vendor. I can come in here to my lines now, and I can choose, instead of an invoice, because there is no invoice number out there, right? I'm going to click on Create GL Distribution. That's this little hash symbol here with the arrow. I remember this, we actually had a hash symbol before, what do you call it, that I'm so into that, you know, hash this, hash that. Anyway, you all know what I'm talking about. You can tell I don't do that. We're going to put our GL account number in, and we're going to put in $500. Oop, not 5,500. Okay, we're going to accept that. And our payment total is 500. We're going to click accept, and it automatically goes into check printing. Now, I happen to have a check form code set up, and so you would normally print your check. Now, let me do a preview first, and then I'm actually going to print it because I want you to see what the check looks like. And there's my American Business Futures on here. Okay. So it will automatically print this check out. Since I previewed, the system knows that it's not a real check. So let me choose a printer here. I've got one. That's not my printer. There you are. And you're going to hear my printer going here in a second. I just wanted to show you what the check actually looks like. So now it tells me to remove my checks, put my plain paper in, and I'm ready to do my check register. All right, we're going to print that. And then here comes my check register. And it's going to show you that I wrote a check for $500. I posted it to my refund account here. Click my down arrow so you can actually see the journal postings, credit to cash, and a debit to the refund clearing. So I close out of there. I do want to update it, and then I'll get the daily transaction register. And just a reminder, if you say no to this daily transaction register at this point, it will stay out there forever until you go back into the daily transaction register menu item and print it. So if you're ever out of balance, check that one first. Okay, so we're going to post that. Now, if I go look at the account in my account inquiry, once again, I'll pull up the right year. I'm going to go to my transactions. I got a debit and credit in there. go to my history. My balance is now 0, which is what it should be. Voila. Okay, so that's how you can refund a customer's money for a credit memo. Once again, you can set that customer up as a vendor. If you do so, what I would recommend when you do that is make them a temporary vendor instead of a regular active one, so that they clear off, because it's probably a one-time hit that you're going to have for that vendor. And if you make them a temporary vendor, you can also set up an invoice form if you choose to do so, or send an electronic payment to them, however you want to do it. Okay, so that is a method if you have a customer who wants the money back. Now, what happens when you have a customer that has both a credit and a regular invoice on their account? So let's take a look at that, okay? So here we are. I'm going to basically sort this. I have a $145 invoice and a $145 credit memo. Now, there are actually two separate ways to handle this, okay? And what we're going to do, I'm going to show you how I personally, prefer to handle this. What I do is I do yet another cash receipt, but as a 0 cash receipt. So we're going to go into cash receipts entry here, create another new batch number, and create another new deposit. Once again, amount received is 0. Okay? Now I'm going to choose that particular customer, and once again, you want to put in a check number that makes sense to you. Well, I like clear CM because then I know that I'm posting against it, but there may be other verbiage that makes sense to you. Cash received, still 0. Okay? Still 0. We go to our lines. Now, once again, the fun thing, I love to use the Select Invoices button because I can come out here. These are my 2 open invoices, and all I have to do is click my little green check mark, and it will select both my invoices for me. Now, but eyeball this. See this? That's going to cause me a problem. Okay? So we're going to click it. We're going to OK it. All right? Look what happened here. It did not put that 145 in. It's vitally important you put that 145 in there. Okay? And we're not going to use any discounts. We want to make sure that these 2 stay the same. These are always 0. So because those 2 are now selected, my posting balance is 0. I can go ahead and click on Accept. Don't have to use that clearing account because I'm not refunding it. I'm posting it against another invoice, or shall we say applying it to another invoice. So let's go ahead and click our printer icon, which brings up our cash receipts journal. I'm going to select my batch, and I'm going to hit print. So far, pretty easy. It always seems a little bit more simple when you watch somebody else do it, and sometimes when you stare at it yourself, you get kind of lost. But it's really simple if you're thinking about the fact that you are applying this credit memo against an open invoice. So here is the entry is going to be 0. Why? Because it's a debit against a credit, and we're not dealing really with the cash account. We're just dealing with the receivable account, so it's not creating a journal entry. There really isn't one. So we'll get this daily transaction register out of the way. And once again, it's just a 0. It's not going to post anything. We don't want it to. But if I go and I look at that customer now, let's take a quick look at Maverick. And I'm going to go to the invoices. Once again, I'll sort them. Keep in mind, every field up here is sortable. And here's my payment. And there's my payment. Interesting, fun, easy, not hard. Okay, like to keep it simple for you guys. So also, if I go and I print a statement, which some of us don't even realize, I can click this little print statement icon right here, and I can print my statement directly from customer maintenance or customer inquiry. Let's go ahead and preview this. I've not done anything. Ah, look, I've got no data selected. Why? Because it's a zero balance customer. So if I want to see, let's see, do I want to see zero balance invoices? Yes, I do. So let's see what happened. Nothing there. Let's do this like this. Let's preview it again. There we go. Finally got it going. Everything is zero. You've got a couple clears in here. Looks like I've been playing a lot with this customer. Here's my clear credit memos as they post against each other. Okay, so that's my preferred method to get rid of the credit memos that I can post against an open invoice. Now, there's another method. You know, I sounded a little woo on that. This is not my favorite method, guys. I'm just going to tell you this right now. Let's go back up to customer maintenance, and let's pull up another customer so you can see that we have this guy right here. We're going to go to our Invoices tab, and we have two invoices, a credit memo and a regular invoice that need to be applied against each other. Okay, so method number 3. How do we handle method number 3? Well, you can go to period end, and you can do this function here, match credits to open invoices. Now, once again, I'm going to tell you, not my favorite, okay? How do I apply these credits? Well, I only have two choices. I can apply them sequentially, or I can apply them by invoice date. Now, keep in mind, that limits my ability to be able to choose which invoice I want to post this credit against, okay? Because the system is going to choose it based on the sequence or the invoice date. For our purposes today, I'm going to choose invoice date, and I'm going to choose this one particular customer instead of all of them. And I'm going to go ahead and hit print. I believe I should still get a paperless document here. We'll see here in a second. And I'll show you what it's going to do. Ah, okay. Look what it did. Here's my credit amount. Here's my credit memo. Here's my invoice number and the invoice it's going to post against. This may not be the one I wanted to post it against. And in my case, it isn't. This is why I don't like this function. So I'm going to go ahead and let it do its thing, though. All right? So then it's going to say to me, do you want to update the open invoices? We're going to say, yes, we do. So the deed is done. What does that mean? Well, that means now if I go back to that customer and I pull up that customer and I go back and I look at the invoices, my $220 invoice is still sitting out there because it took the credit and it applied it against this invoice here at the top. Even if I would have chosen invoice, you know, or sequentially, it wouldn't have mattered. It would have chosen this invoice because it's the oldest invoice out there. So I don't get as much flexibility with this built-in method. And look at the payment reference on here, credit X. So this is the #1 question that I get from people who use this method because they go and they print their customer statement. And then I get a phone call that says, hey, Sue, I got all these credit X's on my customer statement. What are they? Well, they're from using that match open credits. So that appears on the statement, and then you end up getting a lot of questions from your customers. Hey, maybe for you guys, this method works great, but once again, you don't have as much flexibility with this method as you do using the zero cash receipt method that I prefer to use. It's up to you, whichever method you want to do. So what did we discuss today? We had a credit memo that we needed to return to a customer. We had, and we wrote an AP check. We had a credit memo that we did a zero cash receipt where we could control what invoice that it posted against. And then we also used the match credits to open invoices in the period end menu where the system basically selects what invoice that it's going to post it against based on invoice date or sequence number. So those are the three methods. The other question that I often have people ask me is, especially if you have the sales order module, is when I enter a credit memo, do I enter it through sales order or do I enter it through accounts receivable? My rule of thumb with that question is, are you returning stock to inventory? If you are returning stock to inventory, then yeah, you definitely want to enter it through the sales order module. If it's a pricing situation, you have a choice. You can enter it through either module using a miscellaneous item number. So keep that in mind. A lot of times if I have people that have the sales order module, I just tell them, hey, do everything through sales orders. That way, you're consistent on creating those credit memos. But that's just another tidbit of information for me. So at this point, that is all I have for you today, unless you guys have any questions. I'd be more than happy to go over any of them for you. Today's was probably the first time in a long time we've had it within that 30-minute time period I normally give us. But if you have any questions, problems, issues with any of these methods, let us know. I will definitely be getting the documentation out to you later today. And please keep your ideas coming. I've got an idea for our next Tech Tuesday, which might have something to do with this button right there. But send me emails of anything that you want to see or hear about, and we will get it out here for you. In the meantime, I'm glad, I hope that all your Thanksgivings were good. I'm glad everybody made it to work safely yesterday, and we hope to talk to you soon. Our next Tech Tuesday should be in 2 weeks. We'll talk to you soon, and everybody have a great day. Bye for now.